building here, it'll be a 25-story mixed-use residential and retail building. There will be a penthouse on top. On the first floor, there will be retail space, and then there will be 366 dwelling units in the building.
We have about 450 tons of steel in there. We have 3 tiers of supports, the steel wales, and then these pipe struts over here. And then the 4th tier of support is rakers and heel blocks. We also have corner braces, and as you can see over here, this is an area where we have a transformer vault that we are also supporting. This project was very challenging for many reasons, one of them being access. As you can see, we're basically blocked from 3 sides. On Elm, we have a construction site, and over on the west side, we also have another construction site. These are 90 foot long, so you can only deliver them in 40 to 50 foot sections, so we had to bring them here, splice them on site.
Clark Foundations had an 80 foot long area, basically laydown area, and that's how they assembled all of these struts here. So the struts came in multiple pieces. You can kind of see on them where the weld lines are. So they came in 4 or 5 pieces. They got delivered on flatbeds. They brought them here and they'd line them up right next to each other all along there, and then they'd start welding them on the top here. And then they'd bring the crane in, the crane would pick them up, and they'd come and set them in here. So, I mean, it was incredible to watch.
We have so many different types of supportive excavation going on here. So we have the struts, you have the corner braces, you have the rakers and the heel blocks, you have tiebacks, and then you have the underpinning pits. So at any point in time, we had many different crews going at the same time.
They maintained their schedule incredibly well throughout. They actually finished the underpinning pits about a week and a half or 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Clark Foundations built everything by hand. I mean, everything was done by hand. You had the welding crews, you had the crews that were picking it, you had the crews that were setting it in place. I mean, everything here was done by hand and basically custom made for this job. So that is, I mean, another, incredible feat.
And I remember having a conversation with our foreman, and he was just telling me that he's like, oh, I can't wait to start the steel. Like, the steel is my favorite part. I can't wait to start putting the steel. So, I mean, to be working with people that are that passionate about, putting in this type of work is actually very rewarding for me personally.
In 2019, Evergreen was contracted by CSC on behalf of the National Air and Space Museum to remove these 5 enormous murals from the walls. We started by building a large multi-tiered scaffold so we could access all portions of the murals. Due to the asbestos in the wall directly behind the murals, all of the work had to take place in a negative air containment. Each of the murals is nearly 60 feet tall and 68 feet long. We used large sonotubes and hoisted them to the top of the scaffold. We then used very thin metal icing spatulas to mechanically separate the canvas from the wall surface. As we detached the canvases, we wrapped them around the sonotubes and then rolled the whole system down the wall. To avoid putting pressure on the mural surface during the cleaning process, we constructed these large rolling wooden platforms. These allowed our staff to be suspended over the mural during the cleaning. Every single inch of the backs of these canvases was cleaned in 3 separate passes.
If we didn't make sure that everything aligned perfectly, imagine exponentially going across 68 feet. It would get worse as you go on. So we're filling the seams using an acrylic-based reversible material. And oh, by the way, we're not allowed to put paint on the surface. We have to keep it to that tiny little seam. It was a lot to in-paint these. And then you've got 60 feet of it with a raking light and lights coming down. And it was the hardest in-painting job I've ever done in my life. You can see that sheen and then you can't find the seam. And that's what we wanted for all 3,600 square feet of each mural. So you can't see that seam. And that was our goal.
I think the thing that was most crazy about this is that the amount of effort that went into it and the amount of steps that were involved to basically make it look like we did nothing, right? So it looks like this, but you get the same experience that you had in 1976 when the museum opened. This is a showcase piece. It's the entrance to the museum, and it's really, what the original intent was of the museum when you enter it. And so we were able to achieve that and have that look back.
Old City Hall is located in Richmond. Its original construction was in 1886 to 1894. It's made its way onto the National Register of Historic Places. It's a National Historic Landmark as well as a Virginia landmark.
Our main part of our scope was the exterior stone renovation, the complete restoration of the exterior. First of all, there's 150,000 linear feet of pointing on this exterior stonework alone, and that point up consisted of 2 different profiles and 2 different colors. We took all the joints out by hand. We used hand chisels and hand with 5-in-1 tools. Every joint in that building was removed by hand. That was a lot of painstaking work right there, and to get it back to the original color scheme of the building was important to the whole restoration. Cleaning, the whole building was about 80,000 square feet. We scrubbed all the stone by hand, and then we used a low pressure rinse. I think it was 140 PSI max. It just completely brightened up the building. It brought back the granite the way it's supposed to be. You can see kind of the difference between the cleaned and not cleaned, how it brightens up the stone and makes it really come out and come alive. Grundly would come to us and say, if we put this piece of scaffold up, can you have it done by this date? And we look at them and look at the schedule and say, we'll figure it out. Yeah. We'll get the people out there that we need to get out there. The interior work, this is going on concurrently with all the exterior work. There were over 1,600 lintels that had to be replaced, 750 new masonry infills, plus the inside there was over 16,000 linear feet of joints that were going to be exposed, a lot of it up in the attic atrium and the skylight atrium, and a lot of it in the inside of this clock tower that we had to repoint. We had 2 crews of 4 or 5 masons working on this the entire project. I mean, it was nonstop on the inside.